Peace and love, ladies and gentlemen, peace and love. Welcome to another episode of the Fate.org podcast, It Was Phaet. I am your host, as always, the WordsMyth, and I am here to welcome you to a very special edition. I know I say that every time, but that's because every single edition is a special one. Today, we are going to, actually, before I even say that, I really would like to say that my heart and my directed thoughts are with the people of Oregon and California and all those that are affected right now by the devastating wildfires that are ravaging the Pacific Northwest. Much love to all of you. I pray for your safety. I pray for the quick end to these fires. Well, I'll begin with just a very, very brief introduction. Today we're going to be talking about an establishment that I visited while I was in Oregon, and this place is called the NorthWest Cannabis Club. Okay, and from the moment that I walked in, there was a warm welcome right off the bat from Brother Kenny. Peace and love, much love, Kenny. What's going on, brother? Thank you for everything during my time there. Kenny welcomes you when you come into the club, and then I had the pleasure and honor of meeting Mike Keysor. Mike Keysor is the president of the club, and we had a very in-depth conversation that first night I was there. Well, we did multiple nights that I had gone back. And really getting the full picture of what's happening there and what the place is all about. And I learned of Mike Keysor's story, his struggles, both personal and professional, and victories as well, that he has had in the cannabis realm. And once I really got the full picture, I knew at that moment that this story needed to be told. I knew that people needed to really hear about this club, but more so to hear from Mike, and just listen to him. I mean, just listen to what he has to say. So at that point, I also was honored to meet Angela. She is one of the main driving forces of the NorthWest Cannabis Club team. And together, them and the rest of their team right now are making a strong effort to try and save their club. And it represents an idea. One of community, which is really what our country and the world at large has been devoid of for a very long time. This is why situations like this are so important to highlight and make noise about. Honestly, stronger community is all we need to make this whole galaxy work. I mean, honestly, that's all we need. So if you're in a nice and safe environment, partake, if you will, and please give your attention to this first part in a 3-part expose on the NorthWest Cannabis Club and its president Mike Keysor, and some of his personal history and backstory. Please give attention. All in the name of an idea embodied in this club, facing COVID extinction, like so many others. So, cannabis enthusiasts, failing restaurants, and everyone out there, please just get invested in listening. I promise you, it's truly worth it. It'll really give some insight and perspective into the true consciousness of the cannabis culture and community. Especially, this will be great for people who don't know much about the community. So please go ahead, sit back, relax, enjoy. Enjoy whatever you're toking on if you have something. If not, it's all good. More power, peace, and love. Enjoy, and I will catch you on the other side. All right. I am the Wordsmith. This is Mike Keysor and the NorthWest Cannabis Club.
How's that, Ed?
Hey, there he is. Can you hear me?
All right. There we go. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great, brother. Are you going to be able to get the video on?
Let's see.
Hey, there we go.
And then how that? All right.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was an indication.
Awesome. Okay, good. You have it set up in a good spot there. That looks about good.
Yeah, I think so. How does it look, brother?
Yeah, that looks great, and I love the statues back there. Perfect.
Yeah, I chose them. Now, I love my Thai ladies. They're so beautiful.
They are beautiful, and they're right on your shoulders. I love it.
Yeah, I thought you might like that. So I'm so happy that I could talk to you. And you know, we've had such a real crisis here during pandemic. And of course, you saw last night we had 100 days of protests and riots here in Portland. That's devastated the economy. There are no tourists this year for us.
Wow.
Tourists make up about 30% of what we do, and this year they're just missing, brother. They're gone, and so with tourists missing and the flow of members slow coming back, we're in a crisis, and we're in a fundraising month. So that's kind of what spurred all this activity right now. So
Okay, yeah. So I guess before we start diving too deep, let me just give a preface here for those who may be watching or just coming in, and kind of let them know where we are. So I am your host, the Wordsmith of the podcast It Was Phaet of Fate.org. I am here today with a new and very good friend, brother Mike Keysor, who is in Portland, and he is the owner of the NorthWest Cannabis Club. It is, for all intents and purposes, the you know the main attraction when it comes to places that people can go and be with other cannabis enthusiasts, to hang, to chill, to be at a spot, to hear music, to unwind, to talk, and all these wonderful things that one does. And the club has, really has been having some difficulties due to COVID, as many businesses have. Um, and I thought it particularly important to shine a light on this situation because, with Oregon being one of the top three uh, uh, capitals of cannabis for our country, to have their main and pretty much only um, private members a smoke lounge that people can go to have that closed would really be a travesty in my eyes. And that really sparked some wonderful conversation with myself and Mike when I was out there not too long ago. And so really what we're here to do today is kind of, lay out the story here that builds up to where we are now and where the club is right now. Really getting an overview from Mike as a person and, everything he's done and been through in the cannabis space. Which has always been for the people. Everything that he does seems to truly and genuinely be actions for bringing people goodness and help and health and wellness and happiness and great vibes. So let's kind of, if it's okay, Mike, if it's okay, I'd like to kind of start at the beginning. I've got a good block of time set aside for us. You know, are you constrained on time, or are we?
No, we're fine. Whatever you like. I'm
Okay.
I'm free today, so.
All right. Okay. Great. Perfect. So yeah. So let's kind of start off with, you know, your beginnings in the industry, and take us on that journey. You know, how and when and where that began, and then you know how it unfolded over time, ultimately leading from your work in Washington to your work now in Oregon.
Well, I became an activist for patients' rights back in 2010. I started the pursuit of a building at that time that was in Seattle, and it was almost unheard of to have a cannabis you know consumption and farmers market like I had in mind. And it was very much a difficult task finding a building at first. So I started that pursuit. It took a while to find a building. I met some opposition from bureaucrats categorizing me, trying to shove me into a some sort of closet definition of what we did, and I was simply about providing a safe space for patients to get cannabis from what were called patient providers then. And of course, at that time the bureaucrats portrayed us all as just drug dealers, and it was all nonsense and things like that. But over a period of 5 years, I came to open two farmers markets. Our patient count totaled over 80,000, and our vendor amount totaled over 600 through the markets during those 5 years.
Wow.
And what we learned is, there were a lot of recreational people that were very much interested in market access because of recreational purposes, but we saw probably half of those were true patients. Everything from PTSD to lupus, cancer, breast cancer survivors, folks that just had anxieties ridden in 21st century living, just needed a safe place where they could buy their product, get to know the folks who actually grew the product for them. Okay, one of the principles that I liked at first was the pairing up patients with their individual growers, so they could tell them the type of and variety, what their pain needs are, and or the relief needs are for their pains. And it worked quite well, actually, and we had amazing success along the way. And after 5 years, Washington, along with the activists, came up with SB Senate Bill 5052, which defined legal marijuana as we know it in Washington. And in a rush to get that legalized, I think the patients were compromised. And indeed, not only were the patients in a patient rights of growing, which was dealt away with in Washington state, part of that compromise, but also the consumption of pot. In Washington, what I do is strictly prohibited. When our markets were forced to close in 2015, we came to Portland, which was a logical spot to try the second phase of our experiment, which was to take what we had done in social environment and consumption lounging inside the markets and now apply it to a freestanding establishment like we have here. And I found nearly the perfect building because cannabis buildings had been spotted to be on the low end of the scale because, I guess the common word was, a real landlord won't do business with a cannabis company, right? Like if you're in cannabis, you somehow have less integrity, honesty, and dignity and things of that nature. Well, this is my third cannabis building, and once again, I've developed a relationship where even in a crisis now, my landlord is still on our side. They're still rooting for us. They're helping us, okay? The help that I need now in fundraising, it comes from the need for members to return and striking a different chord. But as we came to Portland, yeah, Portland offered an opportunity to introduce that portion of our concept back into the market, and to give an opportunity to see how legalized cannabis would react in support of ideas like ours, because in essence, the club's a building with things in it, but it's really about an idea that unites people. Safe, low-cost access to consume product that either you grow or your provider grows for you if you're a patient. Being out of risk in government housing for a lot of our senior citizens and our low-income people. It's strictly prohibited, and most of the home grow states, you can't grow pot unless you own your property as well. So it kind of leaves renters and a whole variety of people out in the cold, which is always been a part of our mission, from the very beginning.
Now, okay, go ahead.
Well, in the beginning, everything was very unfriendly, okay? And rallying support from patients was an absolute must in order to survive. And our Washington patient ranks were quite amazing in how they supported what we did by, they returned to support our providers day after day, which allowed me to go through sort through the bad ones, keep the good ones. And in the end, we had about 65 of probably the best pot producers and the highest quality of products, all the way from edibles and tinctures, oils, and flour, probably the highest quality products anywhere in the world at that time. I believe the standards have been slightly subsided since then in order to accommodate legalized marijuana. But
I've been hearing that.
Well, the market's had such great impact. I believe in New Year's Day or New Year's Eve on 2014, the price of pot in Seattle was around $8, maybe $9 a gram. And the following day under legalization, it was over $28 a gram.
Woo.
And we promptly ran out of supply in, I don't know, 40 days or something like that. It was an absurd thing. The whole thing turned out to be just a blunder, and future history will look back at that and go, what in the world would they think?
Right.
And indeed, I think there's a lot of people that way. But I never felt that the bureaucrats understood the consumption portion of our industry. To them, counting the money for the sale and the taxes on selling and the income tax on growers, producers, that sort of thing. I think they got starry-eyed about the money there, and they forgot that there is a consumer side to that. Okay, that's how the tax revenues hit record high by more folks consuming. And limiting space and time to consume the product doesn't seem like a viable answer in my book. And we see now that people force their way to smoke in areas that probably is not a good idea. And anyway, I believe that what we have here in establishing these organizations is someone far above the concept of retail cafes or retail clubs. In the model that we see in Colorado, for example, I believe the cafes are attached to a license seller of cannabis. Okay, again, that seems to be okay on the surface, and it serves a portion of the market. But what happens to the home grower and the patient when they when they need to consume or want to consume in a social environment, and there's no place allowed except for where they have to buy something different than their own medicine. And I'm one of the still believes it's medicine, actually. And, I see it.
Absolutely.
I've seen it for 11 years now, directly on my patients and on myself. I'm 65 years old with double hip replacement, and I don't. There aren't many 20-year-olds that could outpace me in a day these days. Okay, so you spent a couple of days with me. You know what kind of lifestyle I lead. So
Non-stop.
most of that, most of that is
Yeah.
made possible by cannabis consumption. Let's face it. You know, it's a miracle product. Okay. On the patio here at the club, I have a cutout that's a tattoo of an elk. This tattoo was taken from a princess's mummified body that was discovered in the Altai mountains in Siberia somewhere. It was nearly 4,000-year-old mummy, and she was buried with cultivated cannabis. It appears that she was treating herself for breast cancer at the time.
Wow.
And that was nearly 4,000 years ago. So we know that cannabis has a long history of being a product that treats people and helps people in their ailments. The idea of it being a social product is something that's recent history. Okay. And even though that's an important part of what we do at the club here, part of our mission is to keep intact the idea that it is medicine and it is a right rather than a privilege like drinking alcohol or something of that nature. These are our basic rights. As a matter of fact, our organization is set up to defend the Second Amendment right to participate in our culture in the fashion that we desire without government bureaucracy dictating how that'll happen. Okay? And, that's part of the ongoing mission that I have. And indeed, now the IRS rules allow me to form an organization that can be that and serve that purpose in the community. So now I believe I can help clubs around the country, unite in action and provide space and time for their local cannabis consumers in a preservation of cannabis culture, which is, at the very least at jeopardy in my eyes from the bureaucracy that's impending on what we do. I've spent some time with these bureaucrats, and believe me, they have an idea of how as cannabis consumers should be consuming our product, and it doesn't really match our ideas much. Okay, much like they measure tobacco use and alcohol use. These are designed to count the tax money. Okay, there's very little concern about anything else that goes along with that.
Right.
So in the ideas of all these legalized states, medicine is not really important to them anymore. They may not flatly deny that medicine is part of it, or they may still allow medical rules and regulation. But believe me, deep in their core, they do not believe in medicine. Okay, you must know that.
Yeah.
And everyone has to know that that is not what the government thinks about. Okay. It's up to us to preserve that and give these people protection and keep that portion of our culture alive. That portion that's in touch with it's a health product. It's part of our health. It's part of our makeup. It's part of our everyday use and part of how we fit into culture and cope with modern challenges of society.
Right.
As a matter of
Well,
fact, I'm sure lots of folks would agree during pandemic that without pot, it might have been a different story, a whole different situation.
yeah, it was considered essential,
Yeah, yes, I believe that,
as it
and I'm
is.
glad
Yeah.
that I don't believe the government considered it essential for the reasons that we're talking about. They considered it essential because they knew that they could keep the tax flow going. In my opinion, of course, I'm an old cynic about things. Okay, and I have many reasons to believe that. So even if that was their intention, there was good that came from that. That we kept the cannabis to our folks and kept everyone and keeping everyone safe and happy.
So let's break down one of the early battles that you had, and I know that you were met with resistance in Seattle by the mayor, and some bows were thrown. I mean, what went down? What was the position of the mayor and yours? What was the bumping of heads about? How did that play out?
Well, our first location was in a little town called White Center. White Center at the time was the most per capita income in the state. After switching around for a building, I came to White Center because it was the only place that I found an older gentleman that would allowed me to have his building and trusted me to have his building. This place was
with
a mess.
with your intended use.
I'm sorry.
With your intended use.
Yes,
Yeah,
he understood exactly what I was
yeah.
doing. Right from the beginning, I never really lied or pretended with the bureaucrats. I told them what I was about, what I planned to do, and at the time it sounded arrogant, but I wanted to state clearly to them that I had a mission. That I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay, but I plan to defend that. Okay, so I went to White Center, and this gentleman trusted me with his building, and I took over the building. The very first night, this was the kind of place. The street was a single street. It had been mostly abandoned because of alcoholics, homeless, drug addicts. There was a back alley of this street that was full of drug addicts at the time. Oddly, down across the street and down the block was a sheriff's office. It was a deputy sheriff's detachment to White Center. And about a few months before I opened there, the deputy sheriff assigned there was actually killed in the line of duty there in some
Wow.
gang activity. So they had just reassigned a new, younger deputy sheriff there. And I got to know him later. He was quite a nice young man, and I came to respect him quite well. Uh, but it was odd that the cannabis market was going to open across the street from a sheriff's department on a street on a street
A
that was
street full of
lined with
addicts and
drunk, drunks in the front,
right.
drug addicts in the back. So in the front, on my first night there, uh, I I was doing cleaning. The place was kind of a mess. We were cleaning and getting ready and prepping, and I looked up in my front window, which was a big bay window. It was a former retail store,
Okay.
and there was a drunk kind of taking a whiz on the front window, and I go, oh no,
Oh, jeez.
this is gonna stop tonight. So
Right.
I reached in my wallet and I pulled out I don't know, 6 or 7 20s, right? So I go out in front of my newly acquired store front, and the drunks are hanging out there. And I go, and I motion, all you guys, come here, I want to talk to all you guys, okay? So I hand out $20 bills to these guys, and I tell them, okay, I own the front of this street now. Okay. If you want to stay here, you go kick the drug addicts out of the alley. You can have the alley. I get the front of the street. And lo and behold, they did. They got rid of all the drug addicts in the back alley, and they took over security for the market for the next 5 years. We called them our alley cats, and we went through a whole bunch of them, and a couple of them were quite beloved by the vendors at the market because they kept them safe and secure for 5 years. Every day we would load in 30 to 35 vendors, each of them with 2 to 6 pounds of pot or edible products, and all the the accoutrements to go into a display booth and actually bring their product to all of our patients. They loaded out each night. We didn't leave anything in the building. We were never broken into. We were never vandalized or robbed or anything. Amazing. Because we never left anything in the building each night. So every day we had to load in 30, load out 30.
Wow.
And of course, it's risky in the afternoon because you've sold a lot of the products, okay? But in the morning time, the alley cats would stand at guard with bats and crowbars and whatever. And they protected our vendors for 5 years.
Wow.
And they became great allies in that whole thing. And we started the process of cleaning up the street. And one by one, the businesses came back to life. They started cleaning up. Some new businesses moved in, and life came back to the street. We ended up, oddly, for 5 years across the street from a deputy sheriff's office, probably selling more product than anyone else in the state at the time. So.
Amazing.
And BJ was a fine man. He overlooked he oversaw and protected the market. We had virtually no real incidences. We had a lot of bad players that came through. We were self-policed. Our patients stood behind, my decisions. We sorted the bad from the good, and the result were about 35 of the best product producers that Washington will ever see, and lots of them went on to become, part of the legalized system now. So, but then as we started White Center, lo and behold, excitement breeds excitement. So we decided to open location number 2 in Seattle, and I found another building on Rainier Avenue. And again, I found a landlord that was willing to take a risk with us and installed in their confidence in us, and we did quite well. We were there for almost 3.5 years. It was a bigger building. It was about, I guess, about 16,000 square feet, and it had an oddity. It was it was permitted as a retail warehouse and a residential location. It had an actual apartment at the top of the building. So it suited a lot of our needs, and there's where we opened the second store. And it became gigantic. That one saw 700 to 900 patients a day, and it could house up to 65 vendors by itself.
So a lot of numbers.
Yeah. At one time, we had, as you know, we have club cards here. We call it Crow cards. We actually started issuing Crow cards to patients back in 2011, and we issued over 65,000 Crow cards in Washington State, and we've issued over 24,000 Crow cards here in Oregon. So those are the numbers of card holders that had actually traveled through our buildings. We had a period of time for about 1.5 years where we didn't require cards in Washington, and we checked everyone's medical authorization each day. But we got too busy and too large to do that, so we issued card holders privileges, so we knew that they had authorizations and things like that. So saved time in processing folks through the building. Some of our days were quite enormous. I remember the first day we had more than a 600 patient day was a young gentleman by the name of Aiden that was works for me for about 9 years. Him and I thought it would be a quiet day before Thanksgiving, the first year we were open. Oh no, about 600 people showed up that day. And it was just the two of us, but it was,
Oh my goodness.
it's such a phenomenal story because
Wow.
they actually they stepped up and cared for themselves. You know, they cooperated, they kept for themselves. It was probably the most orderly day we ever had in market history, and it was all orchestrated on a pre-notion that we weren't even aware or weren't prepared for something like that, and magically it handled itself. So there are a lot of things about the cannabis industry and dealing with cannabis folks that become quite extraordinary to me. For example, the fact that a group of people can nearly handle themselves in a situation like that. They can monitor themselves, police themselves, conduct themselves in a fashion when it's necessary. That was quite uplifting, because in my lifetime, that's not really how it's worked mostly. It doesn't really work that way out there. And, so I saw that opportunity in cannabis where we could, actually foster something of that nature, and it was an exciting time. Anyway, we built quite a following at Rainier Avenue. And yes, we drew the ire of our newly elected mayor. And he took an objection to what we were doing. And as I started to say about building permits, it was an odd thing, because the mayor sent the city attorney after us, and his contention that the retail permit, the retail status of the building, that didn't really pertain to retailing cannabis. Even though it was formerly a furniture store, so it already established history as a retail outlet, right? So what their attempt was to force me through a change of permit, use permit, which required giant building upgrades, $172,000 worth of upgrades to the building, just to qualify for a newly cannabis retail permit, which was, it was all just hogwash, because they didn't like what we were doing.
They're trying to push you out.
Yeah, I understand now that that legalization was coming to the forefront. So, I kind of stood in the way of a little bit of that kind of, having that many people support, not really the legal movement, actually. Most of my patients will tell you they probably had a much better off when it wasn't legal than they do now. Particularly since Washington went to this prepackaged product line. Most of the dispensaries and rec shops in Washington now resemble a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, that's how it was. That's exactly what I saw when I was there twice.
Yeah, they resemble a 7-Eleven. You choose, if you don't know your packaging, what chance do you ever have of buying a good product?
No, it's crazy. It's all behind the counter, on the wall, hanging on a shelf or on a hook, and you can't ask for it, you can't grab it, you can't smell it, you can't look at it. And this is pre-COVID. I mean, I know COVID has changed some things, but even pre-COVID, you couldn't actually physically look and take a look and smell and know your product. You had to look at it from 5-10 feet away and really try to figure out, okay, I guess I'll try that. And you just have to make a decision. Do you want it or not? And it's like, what kind of nonsense is that?
Well, now, not only that, but now you're seeing cannabis companies involved in the charade of mixing it up. So they intentionally make it more difficult for consumers to pick the right product. because as we know, not all product is worthy of top shelf price, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you confuse the playing surface, then it's easier to dupe people into buying something that they normally wouldn't buy.
That's right.
So these are the kind of things that I wasn't really thrilled about in the legalization process in Washington. And even though I'm a proponent of cannabis, but I wasn't a proponent of legal cannabis. I wasn't really a proponent of legal cannabis at any cost kind of idea. There are some things we should not have dealt with. And
Well, I'd like to let's give the listeners a little context on that and kind of the idea of shying away, because for people listening, they would think, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you not want legalization? And so they're not familiar with the other side of the coin, which is a bigger conversation that we said I would love to do on a separate occasion, and bring a few of you OGs into the fold. But really, that the better way to have gone with it would have simply been decriminalization.
correct. That's all that was necessary. I don't see what the government serves in their position. What are they doing for cannabis? They don't enhance the product. As far as safety standards, I believe that the market itself could dictate the safety standards and the quality standards differently than the government can. I don't know that how many real experts there are in the government in cannabis itself. Okay, what they are is experts at enforcing rules. Okay,
Right.
so if you make a set of rules inside a box, not pretending that the world's utopia and the only mission is to extract cash, well, then you understand some of the rules that exist and why we go that way. But yes, decriminalizing would have been my solution. Okay, allowing the market to dictate itself. And as always, it's like tomatoes. If you don't grow very good tomatoes, no one's going to buy them.
That's right.
They don't want bad tomatoes on their
That's right.
salad, right? You know, and the idea that we force a bad product to have a position in the market is absurd. And that's what happens. All cannabis, no matter what level of production, it all finds a home in the cannabis world. I don't know that the bottom portion of the product that's being produced out there, maybe it shouldn't have a home in the retail market. Maybe not everything has to be forced in there. But that's the government's stake in it. Essentially, we've given them, whatever their tax rate is, that's their percentage stake in our business they have.
Right.
And depending on how your business is structured, and if you have partners or what, they may actually own a bigger piece than you yourself do. And you think about it, that the government has a bigger portion of your own business that you're partnered with than you and your partners. Sound on a surface seems absurd, and indeed it is.
Sounds like
Okay.
mafia tactics with their hands in your pockets, in your registers. Yeah.
I don't want to mislead anyone to think that that it only happens in cannabis. The government's very good at lots of industries. Okay.
That's right.
And some of them I've been involved with in the past, but currently I'm only involved in the cannabis industry, so it gets my full attention, and the absurdity that is used, and what happened is sometimes I scratch my head. It's like, why are we going along with this? I'm not a grower, I'm not a producer, and I don't have an iron in that fire. I am a humble club owner, trying to put together an organization that defends consumption rights. I don't have a stake. I was qualified for licensing in Washington. I passed. I passed many opportunities to join other groups. I don't want to, that's not, it sounds corny, but I'm not about money. It's not about money. I'll create jobs and I'll create access and, protections for people who can't defend themselves, who are not being listened to right now. No one's taking their cause. No one cares what happens. And hopefully I'm not the only one left. I, I'd be dismayed if I thought I was the only one. It's like, oh no.
No, there's definitely an army. There's definitely an army building.
But I have great members. I have great support in lots of ways, and I know they'll come forward and help us with our crisis now and allow us to continue on what we're doing. But it's the state of cannabis today. The market and producing, selling, a lot of the mechanics of market activity. I understand. I know how it works. I know how everything fits. My goal is to concentrate on preserving our cannabis culture, that there's place in generations ahead where our culture hasn't been bastardized to nothing, where you're smoking pot by a marker sign next to a post in a fucking airport or something.
Right.
Damn place like that,
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I think bureaucrats have in mind for us,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's anyone to spearhead this, this movement, you're the guy. And what you're doing there at the club, which, yeah, I did spend some good time with you there, and I loved every minute that I was there, and the vibe, the energy, all of the people that play a role in running it, and and in being the members. I saw really a well of kinship and of creativity. There really was a lot. There's a lot of innovation going on in Oregon and in Washington within the industry in different product sectors, and it seems like places like the NorthWest Cannabis Club are really a haven for those things to really take off, and for people to share ideas and build product lines and build with each other and things like that, and it's really fantastic. And so, yeah, maybe I guess we can kind of shift gears a bit, and and really talk about now the 5 years that you were open, and then leading up to COVID, and how that has impacted things. So let's dig in there.
Well, when legal marijuana became the law of the land in Washington, it pretty much closed down all the medical facilities out there, and they became absorbed into licenses. So we closed down on New Year's Eve, 2014, and I opened here obviously in September of 2014, and we started the club at that time. Portland seemed to be a logical place to an extension of where we were at, and indeed some of our vendors, some of our folks even came along down with us here and helped us in initiation and getting this thing started. Part of what we did at first is we embraced the vendors in much in the same kind of fashion we did at the market. They came, they sampled product, they did a lot of giveaways. I'm sure that they had opportunity to meet suppliers, growers, processors, retailers, hooked together, people made connections. Also, our glass community in Portland is amazing. We found a real brotherhood with the glass blowers here. I admire them. First of all, I'm not an artist. I'm kind of I can admire art, but I can't draw a stick, you know. So, any artist, I have in total admiration. And I met some of the most wonderful people in cannabis who are indeed artists and artists. And the glass blowers I fall in love with more than any. I also have a great muralist here by the name of Mario. He's a super guy, and I love him and his family. He's got a young child now, a young boy. He's an amazing guy. As a matter of fact, I've been around now long enough that I'm into seeing these guys that came out as vendors, artists, part of the cannabis community. Now they have families of their own, and they're growing. And some of my old vendors are now grandfathers, and they have just all kinds of things of that nature.
Amazing. Yeah.
But the artisan portion of our culture is something that deserves caring for and nurturing. It reminds me of the artisan culture of early Europe, where the society enveloped these artists and made them part of their everyday life. You know, an artist may come live in your house for a year and do a sculpture or a piece of art on your, for your home or whatever. These are the kind, in that style, in that art appreciation. I think there's almost a renaissance of
yes,
glass in Portland. So I'm very pleased to be a part of that. And a lot of them have come here, and we actually do glass blowing shows on our patio here, and we've had some big name artists here, and I've had the privilege of smoking out of fantastic artisan pieces worth tens of thousands of dollars.
wow.
So that portion I find to be most intriguing, and one of my favorite parts about coming to Portland. And we found that brotherhood there. And the other part is the hip hop community. Pardon me. The hip hop community is, we're a natural combination of hip hop and cannabis. It's odd, when I was young, the cannabis world was all about rock and roll. And now it's the hip hop community has replaced rock and roll. As a matter of fact, Kenny and I were laughing today. We couldn't even can't even name a brand new rock and roll band out there, but we know all the new hip hop artists, everything that's going on
Right.
in the hip hop beat. Yeah. So we've had a lot of great hip hop shows and R&B shows here at the club, and again, I think that may be the primary genre of these clubs going forward into the future. And they seem to have never-ending support and a never-ending flow of really talented people. And I think it's more individual music than it used to be. You don't need a band, you don't need an amp, all you need is talent and a microphone, and right. That makes it a lot different. Same with comedy. We've had some comedians here. Comedy's done pretty well at the club and during market days. Oh, by the way, we've had to exceed probably 2,000 cannabis events since 2010. Wow. So we've seen all kinds of crazy things. So we have a series here we call Dab Wars, which is it's a competition of dabbing. We aired episode 29 just a short time back. So episode 30 is coming up sometime before Thanksgiving, I guess. And we have other things like Canna Family Feud, which is quite nice. Fun, and our members enjoy that. But the culture is, as I said, is worth preserving, because it's at its infancy. We don't know what it will ultimately become. So we need to have big arms and bring all kinds of cultural things, even though it may seem strange and bizarre. It doesn't matter. we're a large umbrella. We're tolerant. We're good people. We can do that. We can find the things that fit and work and support them. That's part of my I guess indoctrination to members. Support those ideas, support other members' ideas. We don't know, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and besides, it's part of that idea of having the freedom, to do what you want. Keeping these clubs private like this at low cost, means that you can do what you want. I'm not a slave to a product name brand or a label or some giant corporation investment company that dictates how and when we have the 4 o'clock Coca-Cola special. We can just do like it was meant to be with cannabis, easy and flowing, calm and good, relief from life the way it is.
Yeah.
Very much like that these days. I although I am a very active person, I do enjoy the calmness and mellowness of life and not having those stresses around. And I hope that the clubs that I'll provide in the future will help folks that way too. Like I said before, I believe in the medicinal side of this, actually.
Speaking of medicine, are we going to partake here?
You know what? I have nothing. I was not prepared. So,
oh man.
All right. If you want to take a ride with me, I'll go see my Kenny.
Let's do that. Yeah. I'd love to say hi to Kenny too. So that'd be great. Yeah, that's my dude.
Yes, indeed, Kenny. He'd love to say hi, I'm sure.
I love it. As you're walking up, people can see that.
Yeah, I was downstairs in the casual lounge, and as you know, that's a whole different world downstairs in the casual lounge. So.
Right. Yeah, we saw Darth Vader and a stormtrooper on your way up there.
Yeah.
Looming over the stairwell.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I have even a better idea. I think I'll just move up there and have him down with that. We'll be right back. There we are.
All right.
All right. So here we are.
All right.
By the way,
what are you hitting?
Hi, Charlie. How are you?
I've got some little bit packed here, and I've got a CBD and CBG pre-roll in a hemp plastic tube, so it's biodegradable.
Wow, that looks awesome there.
Yeah, man.
I had a CannaCulture 2 nights ago. That was amazing.
Oh, that must have been fantastic.
Yeah, we have one of the finest CannaCulture companies in the world out here. Oregon CannaCulture, and Kevin makes a product that's amazing. And it had to be in rose petals, golden rose petals. It was absolutely amazing. So, I'm having a little old time shatter. You don't hardly see that anymore. It actually crumbles and breaks and everything. So
like
that's
nice glass.
Yeah, that's old school there. In the beginning, that was all we had. That was good. No diamonds, no terp sauce, nothing like that. Just a lot of shatter, and hold on to your hat because it's coming hot and fast, right? So,
yes.
Cheers, Ed. Thank you so much, brother.
Cheers to you too, brother. Yeah. Perfect. Got a nice sativa here. Keep the flow going. Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Oregon Guard while I was there, and having some of that as well. And they truly are amazing. He does make great product, like amazing product.
And he's part of what we're talking about, the future in the cannabis industry. An outstanding man. He has a fine character, and he conducts himself with honor and dignity. And you know, that I admire now. That's an important part of our future as these ideas start emerging and growing. And his product is outstanding. Folks can always trust that he'll do well and he'll do right by them. So, and I'm proud to know him, actually.
See, and this is one of the things that I really love about you know, about the cannabis community in general, and especially the vibes there, and that's just that notion of like, you know, we support each other, and it goes without saying. It's not, you know, it's just how it is. It's how we are, you know, and you know, because in the general consumer world, you know, most companies or product owners or so on are not really out there promoting other people, saying, hey, check this out, hey, look at this guy, hey, look at this, hey, look. But in this community that does happen, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, Kenny's here now. He'd love to say hi, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey Kenny, what's up, brother?
How are you?
All right, man. How you doing? You too, bro. Holding it down?
Hell yeah. You know.
All right. What do we got? What's on there? Is that an actual little thing of dab? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like resin or whatever.
Okay, it looks like. Oh, I thought it was. Okay, I was like, whoa. Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys doing this weekend? You got something going on? I think a holiday jam or what?
We have a tie-dye party tomorrow, and on Monday, we have a movie night.
Nice. What are you guys showing?
What else? Cheech and Chong.
Oh yeah.
Half Baked. Friday. What?
All the classics.
Oh, Harold and Kumar.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I saw it 5 times, so I can't remember.
For those of you watching, that's my man Kenny. Kenny holds it down at the club. He welcomes you when you come in. He gets you set up as a member. You know, is there to take care of anything that, you know, you might need, any questions you have and things while you're there. So if you're watching and you're from the area and you haven't been and you go there, or if you're visiting from out of town, definitely look for and ask for Kenny when you walk in, and I promise you'll be in good hands. That's my dude. Yes, thanks, Kenny.
For sure. Good seeing you.
Good to see you too, brother. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll be back.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yes.
That's my Kenny.
That's Kenny, everybody. Yes.
Yeah, he's part of you know, that thing that makes the club different, special.
Absolutely.
I'm traveling again. I'm gonna go back downstairs.
Okay.
We have folks now coming through the day. Our holidays are generally a little slower. The summer holiday, things like that. So this week we had the end of the weekend, finish out the weekend and get ready for, you know, kids going back to school, all kinds of things happening, you know, this time of year. So here we are.
Okay.
Anyway, nice and quiet downstairs. Anyway. So I've had
that was nice.
I've actually done well with you know, employees over the years. Uh, it seems that one of the things that the market and the club has been able to do is to create unique jobs where folks that with unique skills and situations can actually adapt and find an opportunity to fit in where they may have not fit in other places. In other words, our job descriptions can be flexible, and we're not bound to standards that other companies have. So we can give people an opportunity, and they can fit together rather than being forced into like square pegs into round holes. Like I spent most of my life in the corporate world, and they have ideas of how things should be, and they kind of force you to fit into those molds. I was very, very good at forcing things like that. One of the things that I was determined to do when I started becoming a cannabis activist, that I would amend some of my old ways and redeem some of my things from the past. So I'm not a crusader. I'm not on some mission from God or something, but I do have a sense of doing the right thing rather than rushing things or doing things that are meant to just enhance income or anything of that nature. We need to keep in mind what's for the good of all, and what it can give us the best foundations for the future. I'm determined to set up an organization now, preserve the rights of cannabis consumer that can be passed on and sustain the test of time, so that people who belong to these organizations can take up the cause and continue on and preserve the rights in there. So that's kind of my goal, foundation things rather than targeted income or good, all that stuff will all come. It always does. I mean, yeah, this mission is pure and true. If it works, all the other things will come along and they'll be rewarded for that. And I really and truly believe that.
All right, you just saw a wonderful interview, and you can really see already, what I'm talking about when I say that this guy's got, quite a story and a really great plan. So anyone out there who is interested in what Mike has to say and his plan to kind of revitalize and breathe a new air into the life of the cannabis community, and into the restaurant industry, which of course we know has taken a tremendous hit from COVID. So if any of you out there that just watched this, well actually there's still 2 more parts to go, so you're not out of the woods yet, but you definitely got a good taste of what's going on. So feel free, of course, as of now you can reach out to Mike. His contact information is there. I've got it in the description, and stay tuned because we still have 2 more parts coming soon, ever so slightly spaced out in time, maybe a couple of days apart in terms of release. So get ready. This is part 1. Part 2 is on the way. It'll be a little bit shorter. Part 2, the next 2 parts will run probably around 45 minutes each. But yeah, there's still more for you to hear. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you check back in for the next one, and please reach out to myself, reach out to Mike, reach out to anyone if you've got some ideas, and if you really want to get involved. So all right, I'll see you in part 2. Check you later. Peace out.